So years ago, I'm watching Casino Royale. I don't think it was when it first came out in the theaters. It blew me away as a James Bond fan and became the greatest Daniel Craig fanatic ever. But I don't remember if it struck me then, but a few years later, I see it again, I don't know, in the theaters again or on DVD or something. And there's this actor who's basically background or featured background. I think he comes up again and has another line or something, but he's just slightly featured in the film. And he's Judi Dench's M's assistant. And there's this moment in the film where he's so striking, like he's so very good. And I remember saying to somebody, there's this young guy in the movie, and it's so good. Like there's an actor who's obviously doing his homework. And now, of course, I'm a fanatic for The Crown, and I have to admit, I kind of he didn't strike me before this, but I'm a huge Crown fan, and there's Tobias Menzies, and Tobias Menzies is stunningly good, and I'm doing a whole talk on his monologue at the end of episode 7 of season 3, the Moonstruck, I think it's called, episode about the landing on the moon, and he's lost his faith, and it's an amazing monologue. So I think he's a fantastic actor. And then I'm going, wait a second, and then I IMDb and YouTube, and then I go, oh my gosh, and all of a sudden the whole thing's put together, and Tobias Menzies is that kid with Judi Dench in Casino Royale. And it's this amazing little turn in this one scene.
How do they think they are? I report to the Prime Minister, and even he's smart enough not to ask me what we do. Have you ever seen such a bunch of self-righteous, arse-covering prigs? They don't care what we do, they care what we get photographed doing. And how the hell could Bond be so stupid? I give him 00 status, and he celebrates by shooting up an embassy. Is the man deranged? And where the hell is he? In the old days, if an agent did something that embarrassing, he'd have the good sense to defect. Christ, I miss the Cold War.
Which I think is a lovely little turn. Eh? Christ, I love the Cold War. But if you pay attention to what he's doing in the background, he's exceptional. Judi Dench just got a ribbing from the parliamentary committee or whatever, and she's playing politics, and she's bursting out, and she's venting, right? And there's her aide or her assistant, and he's got his coat, which just seems clearly she just burst out because this poor guy can't even get his coat on, which I think is brilliant. And he's also got papers, her papers, some papers. He's got her briefcase, I'm not sure. And he's like, look at him, he's all messed up. He's on the one side of her, trying to
have you ever seen such a bunch of self-righteous
get it all in there. There's his continuity, which is lovely. His continuity is perfect. His coat's still going on. He's still trying to get the papers in. He's getting the other shoulder now. He comes around to her other side, and then he keeps trying to answer her, but he's not sure if he's supposed to answer her or not, right? Because, you know, she's M and he's assistant, you know, number 2. And then what happens is now his coat's on, now he's got his papers, now he's caught up to her, now he's walking with her, now he's her confidant. And suddenly he shifts into basically her emotional demeanor, like, yeah, Bond, what an asshole. Watch.
He celebrates by shooting up an embassy. Is the man deranged?
Watch. And right here, he just basically, now it's like, okay, now that we've gotten everything settled, I can be your equal.
Where the hell is he? In the old days, if an agent did something that embarrassing, he'd have the good sense to defect.
See the attitude going on? It's so good. Like, it's so subtle, and it's so great. And it's Tobias Menzies, like, as a very young man in Casino Royale. And then you cut to the work he's doing in The Crown. We go back and look at their early work. You go, they were thinking. They were literally on their feet. They were fully invested emotionally in their continuity, in their character connection, in their, like, they had worked all this stuff out even without having any lines. You go, that actor, man, that actor knows what he's doing. My all-time favorite example of that is I'm at my friend who's a producer director in his house in Toronto when I was teaching in Toronto. I had the evening off, he was on set, had a huge library of DVDs, and I just pulled this DVD off the shelf, and I'm like, oh, I have Witness. I haven't seen this in decades, and it's such a, and you know, Harrison Ford, and it's a classic movie. And when I came out as a kid, I was like, I'm the Amish and a cop, and I'm like, oh, this is great, Peter Weir. So I put it in, and I'm watching it, and it's such a good movie, and minus the Vangelis soundtrack, it stands. It stands as like an extra, like see it. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it over and over again. And then in the film, when he gets to the Amish town, and now he's hiding away and he's integrating the Amish town, there's this kid, like this young guy, and I'm watching this young actor, and he's really good. Like he's vibrant and alive, and he's very much overshadowing some of the other actors, not Harrison Ford, but he's just charismatic and light, you know, and you go, what? Who's that kid? And then he's in a scene, he's in another scene, and he's in another scene, and he's in the background. He's basically a featured extra, but you go, man, he's good. And at a certain point, I actually stopped the DVD player, and I'm leaning in, looking at him, going, he's so good. Who is this kid? And I didn't recognize him. I go to IMDb, and I'm like, Amish kid. Like his name is Moses Hochleitner, but he's character, 30 or character 40 or 50 or something. He's a tiny little part, but he's so good. And so I look up this character, and then it's Viggo Mortensen, and you're like, what? And so I look up the history of this, and apparently Viggo Mortensen, it's his very first film ever, and every time ever on screen, and he's a New York actor. He's fresh out of theater school, and he's got this agent, and he auditioned for an off-Broadway play, and he auditioned for, or off-Broadway play or something, and then he auditioned for this like featured background, Amish kid in this Peter Weir film that's shooting upstate New York or something. And so or I guess maybe in the Amish, anyway, it's out of New York City. And so he booked both, and he tells his agent, yeah, I'm going to take the play because it's like 3 months of solid work or whatever. And from what I remember him saying in an interview, the agent was like, yeah, with my dead body, or I'm going to drop you. You're taking this one day on this movie. And so instead of just going up and winging, and it's one day, whatever, I have a line maybe, and then I'll get my ass back to New York, Viggo Mortensen does what you should do, which I'm positive Tobias Menzies is doing, which is why we see Tobias Menzies in The Crown, which is why we see Viggo Mortensen in everything, is because on the train ride out to set, he read the script, broke down the script, thought about his character, extrapolated from the script a backstory, understood his character relationships to everybody else in the film, understood the tension between the tradition of being an Amish and modernization and living in the modern world, and he understood the tension of the film, and his character kind of represents that, and he built all this stuff. So he goes to set, he has his one day, his one line or whatever. I think it's the scene where Harrison Ford punches the guy. And Peter Weir is like, yeah, could you come back tomorrow? And Viggo Mortensen's like, yeah, sure. And then, could you come back again tomorrow? And so apparently this one day on this one day part turns into a, whatever, I don't remember, like 15-day part, and he makes more money than he would in a year of theater off Broadway in New York City, and it's what begins him on his film and TV career. And why I'm struck by that is, you take, even when you have no lines, one line, you've got one day, you're the character that goes, yeah, they went that way. You take all of your training, all of your skill set, all of your analytical, emotional, charismatic work, you put it all in, and you make sure that you are grounded and real. And then that's how you go from the guy who's walking behind M to playing Philip on The Crown.